Greetings. By the end of this video, you will be able to control your Goomba and make the Goomba move left or right based on keys that you press. Watch. Oh, sorry, I actually have to press things. It's not automatic. I'm pressing keys. The Goomba's doing stuff. When I let go, the Goomba stops. Keep watching. To control our Goomba using our keyboard, we actually don't need any events per se. There is a way to check to see which keys have been pressed using an event, but there's another way which is a lot easier. It's actually kind of funny too. I'm going to show you all something that I think is kind of funny. But essentially you just need one line of code, which is that one. Keys equals pygame.key.getPressed. Pygame.key.getPressed returns a list of every possible key that you could press. And it's 0 if it's not been pressed, and it's 1 if it's been pressed. That's it. So I want to print that just so that y'all can see. I'm just going to print keys, and let's see what happens. Yeah, see, so I'm just getting a bunch of zeros down there, but you can see if I press keys, there it is. You can see the ones and the zero. Yeah, you can see ones and zeros changing as I press keys. So that's how that works. That's how the keys code works. And essentially, yeah, I'm trying to like scroll and find ones and zeros. It's just not working. But I promise some of those things were ones. And essentially, you know, you might look at this and say, well, how do I know which one is like the key A, key D? Well, there's actually a really straightforward way of figuring that out. PyGame has that built in. So I'm going to just start writing this code. It should be an if statement that we're going to use. It's going to be, I'm basically going to say if the key has been pressed, move left. If the other key has been pressed, move right. Else, stand by, face forward, don't do anything. And so it's going to be an if, elif, and else statement there. And essentially what I'm saying is if keys, and then I open up a bracket and I say pygame dot uppercase K underscore and then A. So that's the A key. And again, I want to refer you all to the documentation. Let's scroll all the way up to the top here. And up at the top, you'll see key. Click on key. You can see they have a lot of functions here for, you know, checking stuff about keys, but right here, they have a list of all the keys. So please get comfortable using documentation. A tutor is a great resource, I think so, but documentation is there for a reason. There's a lot of stuff that, you know, I've written code before that was very complicated, and then I found out that there was already a function for what I did, and I just wasted time. So make sure that you know the documentation. You don't have to read through it. But, you know, if you think like, oh man, there's probably, you know, an easier way to do this, see if there's something on the documentation, Google it, use the resources available to you. And so here's a list of all the different keys you can use. We're using KA and KD for our WASD, our WASD code. And so, or like movement structure. And all you have to do is say if keys of, and so basically like pygame KA, what that does is that gives the, that's just a number, but it's the number that represents the index of the A key in that big list that we just saw. So if you print it, it's just going to be a number like 139 or something. But basically what we're saying here, you can say if it's equal to 1, but like technically as a shorthand, you can just say if and then it. You can say if keys of blank. And the reason why is because it's either going to be 1 or 0, and you can say if 1 or if 0. 1 is true, 0 is false. So if A is being pressed, then we want to player dot move left. Here, actually, let me just steal this code from right there. Boom. So player dot move left, not right. And then I'm going to copy these 2 lines of code. I'm going to paste them down below, change that to an elif. So you can just stop for a second so y'all can see it. I'm going to make that one right. Oop. G key still isn't working well. I'll explain what's going on with my keyboard at some point. But basically now if A has been pressed, we move left. If D has been pressed, we move right. That's it. But, and normally you can just do an if statement for both of these. It doesn't matter. But since I want to, if I'm not pressing either of them, I want to have an else statement. And that else statement is going to be player dot standby. And I have this up on the left, or on the right-hand side of the screen, the reference over here, because I want you all to be able to see like what all this code does. And so we're using this function right here, standby. It just sets the velocity to 0. So basically, if we don't have that else statement, then if you are moving left or right and then you let go, the Goomba's velocity doesn't reset. It's not going to reset for you. And so then it would just, if you say left, right, and then let go, it's just going to keep going right. So standby is sort of like the emergency brake there, or just the break period. Sometimes I put it at the top of my code. I'll just do player.standby up there, and that way I don't need that else. This doesn't even need to be an elif. It can just be, that's more of the emergency brake approach, but I'm gonna ignore that for now. That's all the code that you need in order to control the Goomba. So I want to go ahead and run this now. I'm gonna clear everything, make sure it's nice and pretty, and behold. Well, obviously it's not doing anything until there it is. And so I can make the cute little Goomba walk left and right, and then he stops, or the Goomba stops and faces us. I don't think Goombas have genders, or if they do, I don't know how to determine it. I can't ask it anything. So yeah, we have a Goomba, and it moves. There it is. The next step is to make it jump, which is going to be its own video. I'm going to take the time right now, though. If you're fine with this, awesome, move on to the next video. But I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to transition, and I want to talk about how I'm making it move. So if you're looking for a little bit more of the nitty-gritty, keep watching. Otherwise, you can move on to the next video about how to make him jump. As promised, I want to get a little bit deeper into how the Goomba is actually moving. I am going to illustrate this, actually. So I'm going to break out my little drawing pad here, and we're going to talk about this. So, we're just going through this, thinking about, what the Goomba's like actually doing here. At the end of everything, we're always going to update, and what the update does is it's really just going to take the x value and add the velocity. So basically what move left or move right does is, or what standby does, is they set the velocity to a certain value. And I'll just, I'm not gonna recreate all of our code up here, but if we say move left up here, then what that's going to do in actuality is it's going to set the velocity equal to, so left would be would be negative, so it would be velocity equals negative and then a certain value. I've chosen 3 here. You can actually, if you want to change the code in the unit class and experiment with different speeds, be my guest. I encourage you to do that. Please change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Change it a bunch of times, see what happens, see what you like to play as. If you've played a lot of platformers, you know that platformers are, the controls matter. Super Meat Boy is a very different feeling game than Super Mario. And so essentially what this -3 does is it sets up the velocity so that then when we come down to the update, if x was up here, if x was equal to 500, then now down here, 500 plus -3 is going to be 497. And then, again, just go back up to the top, right? Because we're repeating. So now it's equal to 497, and then now it's going to be equal to 494 if, if the player is still holding down the left arrow key or the A key. And so that's the basic idea. There are other ways of doing it. In truth, you can actually get rid of the update, and you could put all of this into one function. You could make it so that move left, rather than changing the velocity, what you could make it do is you could make it so that it just changes the value of the x. You could just say x minus equals 3. You could do that. There are a few reasons why I don't do that, but those are definitely beyond the scope of what we're concerned with here. So I hope that gives you a slightly better understanding of what's going on. This isn't just a little bit of chaos, and I hope you stay tuned for our next video, in which I talk about making the Goomba succumb to the curse of gravity and then resist it valiantly by jumping.